So Russell, we're here in the new barn at Highland Park. So what's actually happening here?
Well, Jerry, what's happening here is that the guys are emptying the steep, or indeed casting the steep. The barley that's filled into these steeps have a moisture content of around about 12%. And what we're trying to do with the steeping process is hydrate the barley, hydrate the endosperm in the barley. And we're trying to achieve an ultimate moisture of about 45%.
Right. And what type of barley do we use? I mean, has it always been the same type?
No, it's not always been the same type, but for about the last 8 to 10 years we've used Optic. It's a very good barley variety. It malts very readily on our site, and by the same token it produces good whisky.
And the water we use, is there anything special about that? I mean, we always hear about needing to use beautiful soft Scottish water. Is that the case?
The water's always special. Our particular water we use here is called Cranted Spring, and we use that in the steeps, and by the same token we use that in the mashing as well.
So how long does it sit in the steeps itself?
Well, the barley recipe we use, the steeping recipe we use at Highland Park is there's 3 waters and 2 air rests. So it's just over 2 days in total. And as I said, we take the moisture from 12% in the barley up to 45%. And after that steeping cycle, we then cast onto the floor.
How long does it stay on the floor once they're beginning to lay the floor at this? Does it stay for a day or two, or how long?
It's very much temperature dependent, that. At the moment we're casting the steep and we're leaving the germination process on the floor for 6 days. Once the temperatures drop down, we can leave it on the floor for 7 days. The length of time we'll leave it on the floors and the depth of the individual floors is very, very specific to the time of year and the temperature within that time of year.
So it's down really to the experience of the guys, I suppose, to know how deep to make it, how quick to turn it, all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. An awful lot of the floor maltings is down to the expertise of the maltman and the kilnman involved in running the operation.
So why did they turn the barley? Is that just to keep the temperature down, is that right? Just to keep the temperature nice and even?
One of the reasons is for that is to control the germination by controlling the temperature, but by the same token, if we didn't do that, all the roots that were growing would mat together, and basically we'd just be left with one great solid mat over the floor. We wouldn't be able to use it.
Could you not just turn the air conditioning down or something? Or?
Yes, we do that by opening and closing the windows.
Oh, right, okay. So it's very technical here, isn't it?
Hugely technical. This is floor maltings with a lot of experience on site, a lot of involvement on site. There are no technical help, if you like. There are no process enhancements here. It's all down to the guys' expertise on the floor.
So when you're turning the barley, I dare say that depending on the temperature conditions, as you said, you'll use a different type of tool. So what tools are available for the guys?
The main 2 tools that the guys use, one is like a garden rotavator, paddles, and each at least 8 hours the guys will turn the floor by taking this garden rotavator back and forth and back and forth and aerating and turning each and every one of these seeds on the floor, the green malt. We've also got a plough, which if you imagine, the guys can pull that back and forth through the floor as well. We'll use that normally in colder conditions when we don't want to incorporate too much cold air, but just enough to keep an even germination on the floor.
Absolutely. So it stays here for approximately a week, I suppose, depending on the weather conditions. But how do you pick it up? Surely they don't just shovel it into a wheelbarrow and then take it on.
Up to 5 years ago, yes, that's exactly the way we did do. There was 5 people involved with this, basically filling wheelbarrows and driving them down to the elevator that then feeds the kilns. But we've installed some winch mechanisms. There's still a labour-intensive job. There's still 3 men involved with this. But basically what happens is that the guys pull the winch out, a great big shovel, pull, and it drives back into where we need to load the elevator, then feeds the kiln.
Absolutely. And there can't be very many of us who do this anymore. I mean, this must be quite rare.
I would say that we're the biggest floor malting in operations nowadays. Certainly my knowledge is there's 5 or 6 still in operations within the industry.